Hey, what's up, guys? It's metagames GX here, and we're with chat live right now, but we're going to cover our 3 structure deck in a dream branded list. I will be taking this to a locals next week, actually, and showing it off there. So if you want to see me go play that next week, make sure to tune in to our live streams and subscribe. But with that being said, this is a literally just you're taking 3 structure decks here and you are making a deck that is good to go to a locals, and I guarantee you that you'll do pretty well. Yeah, guys, if you want to see more structure deck content like this, make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down below what your favorite part of this deck profile was once the video is over. So we are on 3 Fallen of Albaz, surprise surprise, plus 3 Aluber, and then the 2 Cartesia, and then 2 Quem. So we're also on 2 Quem. I think that 2 Quem is very good for the grind game, and obviously I mean, it's not obviously, because if you're running this deck, you might just be picking up branded for the first time, and if you are, I think a lot of the time right now until the new Fallen of Albaz comes out, Fallen of Albaz is kind of a requirement to run 3. You can run 2, but I recommend if you're just picking up the deck to run 3, because you can lose a lot of games just to like accidentally having your second Albaz banish if you don't have the third, right? Like you kind of just like lose on the spot. So I think having 3 just is a very good safeguard there. And Aluber is your best 1-card combo in the deck. Going normal summon Aluber and then just being able to get to branded fusion is very good. It also helps playing around hand traps if you don't get impermed and you have like an Albaz in rotation. So maximizing on that's pretty good. And then of course the 2 Quem, 2 Cartesia. I think Quem is mandatory at 2 if you're running 3 structure decks, especially because if you run double Grand Guignol, so you need 2 targets at least to summon off a Grand Guignol. I would actually consider even running 3 if you want. If you're just doing your testing, just picking up branded, and you're like, oh, Quem's been pretty good here. Maybe like I would want more Quem, right? Obviously, I think you can do a lot of upgrades to this deck though, so you can literally, and I will tell you guys my top 5 upgrades at the end of this video that you can make to this deck to make it far better, honestly. So that's going to be an option for you, right? If you pick up these 3 structure decks, and I highly recommend it. You can take this build though, especially if you want a challenge, but also just if you want to try out branded for the first time. I think this is going to be a build that does you pretty well. The 2 Cartesia as well are just so important in branded to be able to dodge imperm on your Aluber too. So like being able to go into Cartesia with fusion deployment is going to be one of your best plays, actually going first. When one of your most common hands is just like Aluber fusion deployment, or basically, and what you can do is go fusion deployment, reveal the Grand Guignol and extra deck, go into Cartesia, then normal the Aluber, and if they go Valor Imperm on your Aluber, then you are going to be able to chain the Cartesia to fuse off and go into the Grand Guignol and dodge the Imperm because your Aluber is no longer on field for the Imperm to resolve. And then you get to search out branded fusion and, you know, do your thing, and you even get the Grand Guignol. So I think that Cartesia is like one of the most core aspects of branded, and you guys will see as you progress your branded journey that. So we'll put that back in there somewhere. So here's some upgrades that was pretty nice too. 3 ultra rare Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card's one of your best consistency pieces in branded Despia, in my opinion. So running it at 3, in my opinion, is pretty good in this kind of build. Just being able to get you a draw. It's good going first. It's good going for second. You just have to be careful about drawing Lockbird. But if you have a card like Branded High Spirits, which a lot of your branded cards are just quick plays, so you can, in like branded opening, you can play around drawing Lockbird very easily, especially with this card in hand. So that's why I like learning combo lines are very important. I do have a combo line video for beginners on the channel. I highly recommend checking out, and will be linked down in the description of this video. And we will be also doing a how to play branded new how to play branded series for 2025 every week. Basically, a new guide will come out, so make sure probably every Monday, basically. So yeah, Shrouded Dragon just makes sense. It can get you, it's basically Upstart Goblin, but it also sends like a branded Retribution to the graveyard or an Albaz. And Retribution is a lot of the time how you connect to a branded fusion into your hand. So Shrouded's like core to that. It really helps you in the era of just 2 branded fusion, right? Without the new support. And then 1 Mercurier. Oh, yeah, we need a, hold up. Technical difficulties. we need a Despian Tragedy, guys. So we're running a Despian Tragedy. Just nick the corner of that as well. So we're running Despian Tragedy plus Mercurier. This card is quite good with combination of Mercurier because you are running Foolish Burial and Gold Sark, which are very good one-card starters in your deck. And Tragedy is also how you do your line when you don't open a Luber and you open like a Branded Fusion, basically, because you need a Darken rotation and you don't like normal summon. So like Tragedy is your best line that way. Or else you're having kind of awkward lines. So I think Tragedy is still mandatory in this build. And Mercurier is just like one of your best endboard pieces. It's like a non-target negate of a effect of a monster when it's on field or in hand. So there's a lot of lines where you can like revive this off of your Quem or something like that, or you can just like search it off a Branded Lost. So I think these cards are pretty good in this build and sit nicely, honestly. So 1 Lubellion and then 3 Saronir. And then 1 Bestial Magnamut. So the Bestials, if you didn't know, are basically even better in Branded than they are in other decks. Because Saronir can send a Branded Spell or Trap card to the graveyard when it's sent to the graveyard by any means. So it's a good send off of your Grand Guignol in your extra deck to connect to your Branded Fusion or to another Branded Spell or Trap card you need. Or it's a good way to also just have a nice just endboard piece with Saronir. There's a lot of lines where you can bounce a Lubellion to your hand after sending off a Branded Fusion and summoning it, and then you can recur the Saronir to your hand as a hand trap, which is pretty cool. That was one of my first lines I learned with Branded, and I recommend it because it's one of the dirtiest lines you can run, especially without the lock, which there is no lock in the structure deck. There's no Sanctifier, and right now, between you and me, guys, like, if you are running this deck, or if you're thinking about running Branded and you see how expensive Sanctifier is, you do not need to buy it. It's very unmandatory in this deck. Yes, locking is great and all and can help you win some free games, but I think a lot of people tunnel vision into it, and it makes them play worse. So generally speaking, the deck allows you to have enough interruptions that you don't need the lock a lot of the time. I still like it for certain scenarios, but the lock is actually only something I recommend to advanced players because advanced players can lock in a way that is just very hard to play around and will genuinely win free games. But there's a difference between there, so I think that, having these Bestials as like a really nice game plan. Lubellion is going to be something your main send off a Branded Fusion, so you're going to get very used to this card. And Magnamut is also just like a starter going second, essentially, because you can search Fallen of Albaz or Shrouded Dragon going second, or just another Bestial like Lubellion. And it also these are very good cards into the Mitsurugi meta, or Yummy, right? You can hit the Yummy on Yummy Field spell summon, basically, which is very good. Or you can hit a Murakamo or Futsu when they're summoning from the graveyard, and it really blows them out. So I think, the Bestials alone actually give you a really nice, like, curve into the meta, and you'll win some free games off of these in those matchups if you just, like, time the interactions properly. What's up, Official Zayo? What's up, dude? How's it going, Goat? You excited for these structure decks? Are you going to be unboxing, like, a case of these and selling me all your Starlights? Will you run the new kit when she comes out, or do we focus on Albaz and Ecclesia Dragon? You can run the new kit. It's not that like a either or. I think it's just like a brick that makes your ceiling better and your grind game better. So if you can fit in your like build, then do it. It also makes your Branded Fusion better. One incredible Ecclesia. So there's a bunch of new cards in this build that actually make, if you run the Ecclesia, make them a lot better. It basically gives them a second effect. So I think running the Ecclesia is very good. It's still an okay endboard piece, especially, like, even if you break, you can just end on the Ecclesia and just make Albaz on your opponent's turn and still make a Mirror Jade, right? So there's, in going second for that reason, it's a very good just way to make a Fallen of Albaz without normal summoning, which is pretty good. And then once again, it's just also a card that's great for the grind game because you can go from the graveyard in the end phase. It's like Cartesia, which is very good. This is a key point for Branded grind game for the beginners out there. Don't forget your Cartesia, Ecclesia, and your Branded opening effects in graveyard, because this is how you keep up an infinite grind game in Branded, by triggering these end phase effects when they're in the graveyard during the end phase because they were sent there this turn. You can recur them to your hand, which gives you constant fodder to discard or fuse off with. So These cards are really nice for that reason, and just one of the biggest sticking points with Branded when you're learning the deck is just remembering your triggers, essentially. Kind of like Quem, Cartesia, just like High Spirits, and just like a Luber in Graveyard, right? Because if you didn't know, a Luber has a Graveyard effect, effectively. Whenever a fusion monster leaves the field, and then you can summon out a Luber and negate a card on your opponent's side of the field, or monster on the side of the field, and that has won me games a non-insignificant amount of time. So it's a very good card to remember. You know, it's a good thing to remember your graveyard effects effectively. Who would have thought? So for the branded spells or traps, we got 2 branded fusion. Of course, the GOAT. The rumors of branded fusion's demise have been overstated. With 2 branded fusion off the recent ban list, it helps branded a lot. It helps pure branded so much. It's one of your best 1-card combos, and it's a really good board breaker. One of the ways to play branded well is to bait. This is something that's going to be in the advanced guide, but if you hard open branded fusion, try to make it seem like you're trying to search out branded fusion, because then they'll use their ash and stuff like that when you're on 2 or 3 cards, and then you can just go branded fusion and get your whole advantage tree back. So branded fusion is just such a crazy card. It gives you so many opportunities to break boards, and then also just make a board that just like wins you the game. So it's the best card in the deck for sure. And then 3 High Spirits. Speaking of best card in the deck, this is probably the second best spell in the deck, honestly. It says play through Ash and get you branded fusion. That's what this card says. It's basically a quick play small world for the deck, but it also sends a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard that helps you insulate through Ash. So essentially your opponent's going to be forced to Ash Blossom either High Spirits or branded fusion a lot of the time, and this plays around draw, right, because it's quick play, so you can use this in draw phase, which is really nice. And cards like this pair really well with things like Sarnier and Shrouded Dragon. So what's crazy about this card is you really put your opponent in a bind when you go High Spirits, especially going second, because this card will send a card that your opponent doesn't want to deal with to the graveyard. There's a lot of fusion extra deck monsters that you're going to be running, even with 3 structure decks, that say when this card is in the graveyard during the end phase, special summon a Fallen of Albaz from your deck or like hand, right? So this card can send one of those cards, and then you're getting away to branded fusion, so that's already like forcing your opponent's interactions, but then also you have a second wave in a card that's going to say, hey, I'm special summoning Fallen of Albaz, which Fallen of Albaz, since we didn't go over already, is basically a super poly when it's special summoned or normal summoned, right? So this card's broken as like an interruption, one of our best interruptions, because there's a lot of cards that allow us to special summon this on either our turn or our opponent's turn. So it's gonna be one of your best interruptions or board breaker pieces. And High Spirits is a board breaker and a starter, and it's a great way to unbrick hands. It like converts bad cards into full combo, which I love about this card. Once again, it plays around Ash well, it does, because your opponent's gonna be forced to either Ash this or branded fusion. If they Ash this, it's like, great, now you got a Titanclad in the graveyard, and that's getting you to a Quem, which gets you to an Albaz in graveyard, which forces your opponent to either trigger the Quem and gives you a Mirror Jade, or they have to go battle phase and not kill you, right, which gives you another turn. So immediately does something that you wouldn't have had otherwise if you just went normal Luber, get branded fusion, get Ashed on branded fusion. You don't have anything. Because some people will just Ash High Spirits too, because of you get as much advantage off of High Spirits as you do branded fusion a lot of the time. So some people who know the branded matchup will just Ash this, but the issue with that is like 2 branded fusion, so you just go branded fusion, just like win the game, right? Because your choke point is branded fusion, obviously. It's the meme, branded Ash on branded fusion, especially this kind of build. I think you do have to play around the Ash on branded fusion, but that's why we do have a lot of options to do so. But then also, yes, because I did forget these in the main deck already, 1 branded white, 1 branded in red, because you just need these cards as well. They're just such good like onboard pieces, and they make Guardian Chimera if you have a Guardian Chimera laying around. Also Chaos Star Source, if once again you can buy that card and be able to board break with this deck, is pretty nice. And brand red ends up being one of your most consistent like end board pieces that can make you really good cards. But I think in this build it's a little bit worse when you don't have more options to make off of Brandon red, because really, what are you making? You should be making like a Stapelia, but if anything, you're making like a second Mirror Jade or Stigmata, so it's still there for those options. I think Borreload Furious Dragon also is something that you can get for this, so those are definitely mandatory. And that, I think, brings us up to 50 cards in the main deck. So all right, editing job done. Now we do the side deck quick. All right, so 3 branded opening. It's still one of our best 1-card starters. Very good card. Gets you to a Luber, Special Summon, or Quem. It also discards a card. Very solid. 1 branded lost. One of the best cards in the whole deck. This card wins the game if you see it going second, so that's why we're siding 2 of it as well. Also searches out any card that mentions Fallen Valbaz, so it's very solid. It's also something you can set off your Bastille Lubellion, which is why you send it off a branded fusion most of the time. And then we have 3 of the new cards, 3 Fallen and the Virtuous. This card is absolutely insane. It's one of the most generic cards in our deck because it's basically Mirror Jade and a spell card. It allows you to send for cost a monster that mentions Fallen Valbaz from your extra deck, and then you can target 1 card on the field and pop it, or you can revive a card in either graveyard to your field if you have an Ecclesia monster on field or graveyard. So that's why we're also running the Ecclesia, because we're running 3 of this card. And this is one of our best board breakers. Basically, this plus a Super Poly breaks every board in the game right now. So, now when we're running the structure deck, we don't have proper Super Poly targets. So I do recommend getting a Garura. This is like the #1 get of the deck. If you are just taking 3 structure decks and picking up branded, you need to get a Garura because it's really good for Super Poly. But then also you do have the option with Fallen the Virtuous to just like pop your own cards, which is really broken. So if you get impermed on a Luber, similar situation as we had before, but we don't have Cartesia, well, you can just go Fallen the Virtuous, insulate from your line, because you can send like a Titanclad or an Albion to then get you to combo at the end phase through hand traps. And then you also get to pop your Luber and search the branded fusion, right? So it's also a great end board piece. So I think like having it as a 3 of, like, you'll hard open it sometimes as a board breaker, or even going first and just making your end board even better. So it's just like such a broken card. And once again, I think this plus Super probably breaks every board in the game right now if you have that Garura. So that's why it's like so important, in my opinion, especially in this build, to get the Garura. And in my opinion, it's a 3 of until the new cards come out, in most builds that run branded cards. Maybe not the branded Draco Tail build, but in like pure branded Despia, you should probably be running 3 Fallen and the Virtuous. It's just too custom. It solves a lot of your issues in this format because there's a deck called Draco Tail that has a trap called Draco Tail Flame that can negate a spell card on the board, and it doesn't even negate the activation, so you can't reuse your branded fusion if it gets negated by this. So this fixes it because you get to pop your own branded fusion so it can't get target negated because of the trap targets. And it also pops a Herald of the Arclight, which is the #1 enemy of your deck end board, for an end board piece in the meta, in the form of Yummy Mitsurugi. They'll be ending on Herald sometimes, so this card outs the Herald immediately, which is very broken. For the Fallen and the White Dragon, is there any locks for fusion, or can branded be integrated in other engines? I mean, there's locks if you special summon it, so it's only on normal summon where it doesn't lock you, so I think it's not going to be really used in a lot of other decks unless it's like a branded lore deck effectively, but we'll see. 3 triple tactics thrust. It's crazy that this is like one of the best reprints we've ever gotten, and it's an all art, like 2 of the best all arts of all time right here with the 3 fusion deployments. This helps you get to Cartesia or helps you board break with Albaz, so it's so good. And then thrust obviously just helps you board break immediately, because you can search out branded fusion or a branded white, which is very good for board breaking. And then also going first, it can search you out a fusion duplication. If you get ashed on branded fusion, then you can just resolve branded fusion on your opponent's turn, which is very good. So yeah, very good in that regard. Also, these are like staples. These are like the reason why you pick up the structure decks, honestly. So, and we have, for some random extenders, Gold Star Foolish Burial, because these are 1-card starters in your deck, so they're pretty good. And then also you have 3 Super Poly, wherever my 3rd Super Poly is. And then, because this is like the best board breaker in the game, I recommend getting a Garura or a Starving Venom or both, because it makes this card just so much better into some of the matchups. And then Banishment, Retribution, Fusion Dupe. No Branded Sword, because I think Branded Sword might be a little bit bricky in this kind of build. So Banishment's very good though into Mitsurugi, especially when you get like also I recommend Stapelia. So we can talk about the cards I recommend once we get after this extra deck and side deck. And here we're going to go into the extra deck, and it's going to be pretty simple, guys, because we only had 8 extra deck cards in the structure deck, so we have to use what we get. But I think that the 8 that we got, like there's some missing, like Despia and Quertus is going to be one of those cards you want to pick up also, because that was just not included, and that's a pretty good branded card. But for now, when you're just using 3 structure decks, I'm running 3 Mirror Jade because it's still your best boss monster, and having more in rotation is never a bad thing. Also, just having more sends off your Fallen and the Virtuous is pretty good. So 3 Mirror Jade, 2 Stigma, or the Dragon that Devours the Dogma. This is the new guy. That basically non-target spins back 2 cards from banishment or graveyard on either field, so you can spin back face down banished cards finally in your deck, and it also turns into a Towers that gets 500 attack as well when you have Ecclesia in rotation, which is very good. And also in the graveyard, so it's a good send. You can search a Mercurier from your deck, which is pretty good, and then also a Dogmatica card, so it could be a Queb, which is pretty decent. So yeah, I'm running 2 because it's also a really good super poly target, because it requires a Fallen of Albaz plus a light or dark monster plus any effect monster. So you can just go set Albaz, chain super poly, make this guy by fusing off 2 of your opponent's monsters as long as they have a light or dark monster, which is just so crazy. And without Garura, I think you should be running 2 or maybe even 3 of this card, honestly. I think you have to run 2 if you don't have Garura with the 3 extra deck for sure, though. 2 Albion for fusing. You need them. They go through. You go through your standard combo with this card all the time, so 2 is just fine. And then 1 Lubellion. You don't need the second because you just spin it back to make a Mirror Jade a lot of the time. And then 1 Rinbrum. This is your best send off a Mirror Jade on your opponent's turn a lot of the time, or to set up another interruption in your graveyard because it can revive an Albaz on your opponent's turn. And also it's a good unboard piece. And once again, there's some combos that go through this card that are pretty good. I was gonna say the deck is honestly only missing 3 cards like Fua and Droll. That's the thing, guys. Those would be my last 2 cards I recommend are Fua and Droll. Like, you have to pick up Fua, Droll, Garura, Stapelia, and then maybe Starving Venom. Chaos Star Source is the 5th. Yeah, those are the 5 cards you need in my opinion. Then your deck is infinitely better. Like, maybe Called By, but I don't even think Called By is that necessary. And then for the rest of the branded fusion monsters, 1 Alba Lenatus. This is a good send off a branded fusion, or sorry, like Mirror Jade or like the Fallen and the Virtuous to get to a fusion card, which is pretty good. And then also it's how you can beat. This is how you beat like Blue Eyes or other like dragon decks. Like going forward with Dragoonity and Dragon Link having support, this will be actually probably mandatory post Burst Protocol. Even the branded mirror match, it's okay into Draco's Tail. It's okay in Vanquish Soul because of the Caesar Valius. So it's also a good way to spin back all your dragons and have infinite grind game, because you can go Lubellion the Searing Dragon, make Alba Lenatus. And Alba Lenatus takes up 1+ dragon monster, and you can also contact fuse from dragons on your opponent's board too, which is pretty cool. So either or, you can use it to spin back with Lubellion and spin back 6 dragons effectively and have all your dragons back, or you can just go normal Albaz and then contact fuse off your opponent's board of dragons. It's very funny every single time it happens. So yeah, we have 1 Brigand, 1 Sprind, 1 Titanclad for the rest of the branded monsters. Titanclad is so good. It's one of your best sends off of Mirror Jade or like Fallen and the Virtuous or High Spirits, once again as a board breaker. But Brigand's kind of similar in that case. Same with Sprind. Sprind's a really good monster to make off of your Rinbrum Albaz summon, or because it's just super generic, but then also it's a way to out Retaliating Sea, which is pretty cool. And then 2 Grand Guignol, because you can summon the Albaz, fuse off the Retaliating Sea, and then you're done with it. And then also it can pop a face-up card on the board, so it can out Floodgates, which is pretty cool. And the double Guignol is just like mandatory in my opinion. It's your best fuse off of Cartesia, and it can get you to your combo pieces. Thoughts on Guardian Chimera? Guardian Chimera is also a card I would also... Yeah, Guardian Chimera might be like the 6th card, honestly. But I've been... Especially in this kind of build, like when we're talking about like other upgrades, like we would probably remove a Mirror Jade and a Stigmata and then put in Guardian Chimera plus a... Guardian Chimera plus a Garura. Those are the extra deck changes I would make to this deck. Brigand's also very cuttable, so if you find a card like Light and Darkness Dragon Lord or Predaplant Stapelia, you can cut that for this. And then you really have like a super solid build. Once again, Fulos, Droll are cards that I'd be running too, and you could just add them to the main deck. And then 3 Nadir, 3 Blackout, 2 Lost. These are board breakers, right? Because going second, Branded Loss, you can just activate Branded Loss, and if your opponent can't answer it, like Vanquish Soul can't answer it, where it just like baits interruption. You can also recur it, which is really good. Then you just resolve a branded fusion, you win the game because your opponent can't respond when you fuse under loss. It's like magical meltdown. And Blackout Laughs is one of your best discards off of Super Poly, Branded Opening, Fallen of Albaz, Lubellion, 2 board break going second, and it's also a decent unboard piece, so you can just call like, you know, Murakamo or something like that, and you can just deal with problem cards. 2 Fusion Duplication, because going first, this is one of your best going first sides, and then 1 Swarm, and then 3 Nib, and then 1 Branded Banishment. Oh, yeah, we mained the Banishment, and then I was siding a Banishment, so that means 6, 9. Okay, yeah, I guess we just have the second Banishment, because why not? Banishment is a good card, but then we also have 3 Nadir. So going first, you're always siding in these 5 cards. The also Branded Banishment too if you want for like Mitsurugi matchup, but this is honestly kind of just like a flex spot. And then the 3 Nadirs, just these cards help you play through Ash and other hand traps, like a ton of hand traps. You can still just like make a full board off of Fusion Dube. Nadir helps you play through hand traps by like sending Albion or Titanclad to complete your combo. The Nib is just like decent to certain matchups, especially when you have like Yummy. If you pair it with the Bestial is not bad. So okay, so I want to show you guys what you guys get when you have Aluber plus Fusion deployment in this kind of deck. When you have 3 structure decks, it's one of your best 2-card combos. So you go Fusion deployment, revealing the Grand Guignol out of your extra deck to then special summon out a Cartesia from your main deck. This will allow you to dodge things like Infinite Impermanence and then also Effect Veiler on your Aluber summon. So then you can summon an Aluber, go normal summon Aluber effect to search a branded Despia card, and then if your opponent, you know, basically imperms this, you can chain Cartesia to dodge the imperm so you can still resolve the Aluber because it will no longer be on the field to be targeted. So you'll get the branded fusion. Now, if you have a Dark Dragon here or a Light Dragon, you can search branded High Spirits instead and then go through the kit line, but we aren't going to do that. That's like a 3-card combo, and then we'll go branded fusion. And all you need is a single discard for this hand, but that's not too consequential, so we'll send the Fallen of Albaz, and then plus the Bestial Lubellion, and then we can make the Albion the Branded Dragon, and then we can go Chainlink 1, Albion the Branded Dragon to fuse from hand, field, or graveyard by banishing, so we can then banish the Fallen of Albaz plus the Aluber, and then we can make the Lubellion the Searing Dragon, which is going to then have to discard for cost in order to spin back from graveyard, banishment, or field cards to make a level 8 or higher fusion monster. So I will fuse back the Albaz plus itself so that we can then get out to the Mirror Jade. And this is going to be our best boss monster of the deck. It's a non-target banish, and a lot of decks just can't deal with this. It also has a really nasty effect that when it leaves the field because of your opponent's card, that means you can just like crash into your opponent's card and it will trigger. You can destroy all monsters your opponent controls on their field basically in the end phase, and that's a non-activated effect in the end phase, so it's very, very good. So you can now tribute over the Albion, and for the Lubellion, this is the Nib angle, guys. If they chain Nib here, you chain Cartesia to make Grand Guignol, and then on the resolution of Nib, you can trigger the Grand Guignol in your graveyard to then summon out a Quem or a or like something else that you might have. But here we aren't just going to say there is no Nib. We're going to go for the Bestial Lubellion effect, go for the Branded Lost, which is a very good end board piece that makes it so your opponent cannot respond to your fusion effects and fusion summons, essentially. So then you can go Cartesia effect to fuse off the Lubellion plus herself into the Grand Guignol finally. And then we can go Grand Guignol effect to then send a level 6 or higher light or dark from extra deck or deck to the graveyard. Here we are just going to send the Titaniclad because we don't have access to Quem or Albaz in our graveyard, so we need to do that. And then also we have Chainlink 2 Lost to then search out a Mercurier since we used a fusion summon, so you can search out a monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz, so we will then search out Mercurier on the same Chainlink that we're sending off of Grand Guignol. And now we have a Banish and Grand Guignol, a Banish and Mirror Jade, tag out in Grand Guignol and Mercurier, but that's not where it ends because then we go into the end phase, and then we get to go Titaniclad effect in the end phase. I like resolving that one first because that's the one I'd ideally want to be hand trapped. We can then go Quem to then send a Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard so that our Mirror Jade's a lot better. And then we can resolve the Albion the Branded Dragon in the graveyard to then set or add a branded spell or trap card. Here we are just going to set either the Fallen and the Virtuous or Branded in red here is pretty good. I think overall you probably want the Fallen and the Virtuous here for the extra if you're running 3 structure decks, because I would say that because you get most of your like red plays out of Albaz in this deck, honestly, and you can send Rinbrom off of Mirror Jade, so I'll show you guys what you mean. So you can set the Fallen and the Virtuous, and then also you can get the Cartesia back to hand, so you can have a discard, which is going to be very important. So you passed your opponent, and now let me show you how to sequence these plays. You have your non-target Banish and Mirror Jade. You always want to send Rinbrom if you have an Albaz in the graveyard on your opponent's turn with Mirror Jade, because then once you banish with your Mirror Jade, you can then go Rinbrom effect, target the Albaz in graveyard, and special summon it, and then you can use Albaz effect to then discard that Cartesia to then fuse off with the opponent's monster to then remove a body and create another interruption. This is where if you have Stapelia or Chaos Star Source, it really comes up, because then you can go into Albion effect, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2 Lost, and then also you can go Chainlink 3 Quem to then summon out the Cartesia, and then you can summon out the Cartesia, right? And then you can go Albion effect, or sorry, Branded Lost effect to then get a Albaz for your Cartesia in hand, and then you can fuse off with the Albion into whatever you end up wanting to go into. Now, I think, honestly, all things considered, with this kind of hand, you'll banish the first Mirror Jade so that you can loop it, essentially, and then go into another Lubellion, and then go Lubellion effect, discard the Albaz, and then spin back an Albaz plus the Lubellion, and then you can make a second Mirror Jade. And Mirror Jade's a soft once per turn, so you can use its effect again once you get a new copy out, which is really cool. And then you have the Fallen and the Virtuous to then pop a card, and then send another card to the graveyard. You could just send Stigmata to then get more follow-up, and then you also have Stigmata as a target as an interruption, honestly. If you kept that Albaz or have another discard, you could go Cartesia, make Stigmata, spin back 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, but at this point you're kind of just like doing looping Jade kind of shenanigans, and that's just like the best kind of like line that you can get with the structure deck. I think it's still a lot of interruptions, right? Because then you can go Grand Guignol, tag out for a second Quem if you need to get into other things, which is pretty decent. If you have like Lulu or Quertus, that's where that comes up, right? And you still have Mercurier, which is a non-target, and of course Fallen and the Virtuous, which is a target pop. But if you guys want to see more structure deck content, make sure to like and subscribe. Very much would appreciate it. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. And with that being said, Branded Best Deck, we'll be seeing you guys later. And yeah, that cuts it out for the YouTube video, guys. So I'm going to throw on this Galzo. Or actually, no, I'm going to throw on Fresh Off the Presses video. We should do that.